We are going to start the hem sample. First thing that you need to do is to cut 5 pieces of your extra skirt material 5 inches by 5 inches wide. This is going to give you the samples that we need. We want to be using your own skirt material so that you know how the different hems are going to react with your material. You're also going to need to finish one of the edges of each of your pieces except for the second one. Let's get started. I've serged the edge of my one end and I'm going to fold it up 3 centimeters and press that. The next step, it says, is we're going to unfold this and we're going to be placing a strip of Steam-A-Seam along our serged edge here. And Steam-A-Seam is a double-sided fusing tape which allows you to basically stick it in place. This Steam-A-Seam type of hem sample would be great for something in which you don't want to see a top stitch or you don't want to see any hand stitching that has gone through. So some lightweight material like a satin. So you're going to take a strip of the Steam-A-Seam and you're going to place it and mark it. Okay, and you're just going to be cutting it off with your fingers. The Steam-A-Seam is the double-sided interfacing, so it's got the coating, which is the paper on the one side. You're going to make sure that the paper is face up. And before you do any pressing, we need to use our plastic press cloth. This is going to ensure that none of the Steam-A-Seam goes on the ironing board or onto the iron. So you're going to place your press cloth underneath. Your paper is face up. You're going to fold the press cloth back over top of it and you're just going to press really quickly just to hold this one in place. So you're not going to press that for very long. Take your plastic press cloth off and now we've got our paper. We're going to take the paper off of it as well. I can get it. And you're going to see sort of a shiny kind of residue. Now you're going to fold this back up to where you had pressed it originally. And you're going to press it again. This time you're going to press for a good 5 to 8 seconds. When you're pressing it, please make sure that you let the material cool before you try to see if it's going to stick or not. Open it up, let it cool, and once it's cool to the touch, then you can notice that it's not lifting up at all, and that's what you want to see. So really easy way to create a hem. You're not going to be using this one for your skirt because it's too easy. The next one that we're going to do is called a machine rolled hem, and this is a great option for a circle skirt. So you're going to take one of your fabrics that you haven't done anything to yet, and you're going to press it up 1.5 centimeters. So I've pressed this up 1.5 centimeters. Now I need to go to the sewing machine and I need to sew it. And I want to be sewing really close towards my folded edge. So you're going to be using the center of your presser foot as your guide, turning your dial to 0 and stitching along exactly like you did the edge stitch or under stitch with your facing sample. So now I've stitched it. Now I'm ready to trim this part of the seam off. So you're going to take your scissors and you're going to trim as close as you can to the actual stitching line. So here I've trimmed it and I don't have much left. The next step says you need to press this again. So you're going to take this part here and you're going to press it again once more towards the wrong side of the material. And what it's going to do is it's going to give you this really nice even seam. So here I've pressed it. And now the next step is I'm going to sew again really close to this fold line. So again, use the center of your presser foot as your guide right along this inside fold line. Okay, right along here, and stitch again. You're pretty much going to stitch right on top of what you have already done. So here you can see I've got my 2 stitching lines on the wrong side. The red stitching line is my original stitch where I first stitched out of 1.5, and my second stitch is what I have just completed. From the right side, you're going to notice only 1 stitch. So the next one that we're going to do is called the top stitch. You're going to take one of your serged edges, you're going to go to the ironing board, and you're going to press up that end 4 centimeters. So measure off your 4 centimeters from your serge to your fold line, and we're going to give that a press. So here I've got my 4 centimeters all pressed up, and I'm going to pin that in place. For your skirt, you will decide how much you're going to be pressing that up. Now we're going to top stitch. And we always want to top stitch from the right side of our material so that we know it's going to be straight, whatever it is that we're top stitching. Then I take a look at my needle plate and I see what line am I close to. And this one here is I'm following my 2.5 centimeter line. So I want to make sure the fold of my material is going to be lining up right with that 2.5 centimeter line. So pin from the good side. Line up my folded edge to wherever it was that you found on your plate and start stitching. Always back stitch. So here I'm just following my fold line with whatever I've decided on my plate. So now when I take a look on the other side, you can see the red of my bobbin thread is right sort of where the serged area is. And that prevents any of this part of the hem to flip on out of my skirt. So the top stitch is nice and straight from the outside as well as the inside. That's why it's really important when you press it that it's exactly the same amount from the fold. Next one is the vertical hem stitching. It's hand stitching from the wrong side. You won't be able to see the stitching from the outside, and that's the idea with it. First thing you need to do is create a clean finish, and that's the one where we're going to press up just a small edge like this, and we're going to sew right along here. So we only want to press this up just about 1 centimeter. So now we've pressed up our edge to the wrong side, and now we're just going to stitch in the center of that, and then we're going to fold this up one more time. So now what you want to do is you just want to sew in the center of this, just using a straight stitch. The instructions now say to press the hem to the wrong side now 3 centimeters. And then give it a good press. So now what we need to do is thread the hand sewing needle with a single thread and a knot at the back. So I've got my knot at the one end. Okay, and we just need about an arm's length of thread. So now we're ready to go. It's going to say stitch through the hem at the right side of your sample. So on the right side, and this is going to fasten it, and we want to sort of hide the knot. So we're going to start here, and we're just going to hide the knot just right through that seam area, or if you can't get through the seam area, just through here. All right. And we're going to pull it. So always making sure we hide that knot. We don't want to see it. The next thing that says, it says, now catch one thread of your garment fabric right above the hem edge and direct the needle diagonally to go through the fold. So what that means is you want to be stitching just above where your clean finish is, but you don't want to be going through. So your needle should not be going through the other side. You're just going to be catching one thread of your material. So you can see here that I've got just one tiny piece of thread of my material, and that's what you want to be doing. So the next part is, so now I've got my little piece of thread there. I'm going to go diagonally through the next part here. Oops, and pulling that. And I'm going to go back up and I'm going to get one strand of my material. Okay, don't pull too tight. You want your hem to be able to move freely. So it's a fine line of pulling too tight and not pulling tight enough. Okay, so you don't want to be pulling it so that it puckers or pulls. Okay, so just nice and loose. And I'm going to go diagonally again. Don't pull too tight. And then I'm going to come back up here and I'm going to get just one thread. So the key is we don't want to see it from the outside. So now that I'm reaching my end, I want to then tie off my thread again. So you can see it's not too tight, okay? And it allows the hem to then move freely. So now I'm going to finish off, but this time I'm going to make sure that I hide my knot again. Right? So we're just going to tie off our knot twice. And then cut it off. And now we can see that I don't see any of the stitching along the outside. So that is your vertical hem. That we're going to do is called the catch stitch and is used to stitch again the flat edge, and it has more movement. This time we're going to use a serged edge. And we're going to be pressing that up about 5 centimeters. So I've got my serged edge and I've pressed it up about 5 centimeters. This time you're going to work from the left side to the right. So we're going to start on the left side, but our needle's going to go in from the right to the left. So it's kind of a curling motion like this. So I'm going to work from the left and I'm going to poke my needle through just by the serged area here. Okay, and hide your knot. This time my needle is going to go from the right hand side to the left hand side. And again, I'm just picking up a couple threads so that we don't see it from the other side. Okay, now I'm going to go to my serged area and I'm just going to pick up material. You don't have to pick up just a little bit. You can actually stitch through. And you want your stitches close, but not too close. And again, you want to make sure you're not pulling too tight. So this is going to look more like an X. When we are done. So now I'm getting close to the end. And again, you're going to want to tie off your thread. So this one here is going to allow a little bit more movement, which is really good. And this is called the catch stitch. You're going to use this type of stitching as well to tack down your facing along your side seams. So you should be able to see here the little X's that are formed in the purple.